Welcome to the Dashboard Effect podcast. I'm Rick Thompson, and I've got Kate Eberle, our senior account executive, here with me today. We've been talking about data, financial data, and integration, and how difficult it can be to pull data from different systems and companies. If you're doing a roll-up of companies, let's say you do acquisitions and so on together, various tools you can use often end up in Excel still. How much a data lakehouse structure can help with that. But I thought it might be interesting just to talk about an example client we've had recently. We won't name names, but we could talk through some of the difficulties they had and then how we and they went about solving that.
Yeah, so this is a probably billion-dollar company, of course, PE-backed, so lots of pressure to grow and grow very quickly. So this company really had a pretty rich data environment already. So they had one primary ERP that was servicing maybe 50% of their smaller organizations. And then it was a pretty disparate data environment in terms of the rest of the companies and where they were pulling their financial information from.
Do you know how many companies they had as part of their roll-up?
Let's say approximately 20.
Okay, so quite a few.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And integration, anybody who's done integrations even of 2 or 3 companies knows that can be really difficult.
Mm-hmm. So, nice in the sense that there was some concentration of data for the largest legacy company, but lots of smaller data to be pulled in and normalized with whatever the business rules were for that main company. Never mind that in this environment, you have all of those ERPs, you have QuickBooks, you also have tools like Adaptive and Planful that are not necessarily sourcing data, but are sourcing analysis, budgets, forecasts, additional information that you need to pull in and enrich that environment to tell the whole story.
Right.
Never mind your sales side of the house that's probably operating a CRM. I think they still had one, so they were on Salesforce.
Everybody was on Salesforce.
Yeah, but there was a manual process to get that data in and make sure you were connecting it appropriately with ERP data.
All right, so here's a company, billion-dollar company. They've got the main company's on a particular ERP system. They've got maybe 20 add-on companies. Half of those have been migrated and integrated onto the main ERP system, which sounds great, but you've still got 10 companies that if you want a unified view across the entire organization, you're having to integrate that data somewhat manually. And as you said, they were using tools. I think you said Adaptive.
Adaptive, but that was specifically for the budgeting and forecasting piece.
Okay.
At the end of the day, to prepare the consolidated view, basically they prepared a monthly pack that they were sending out to general managers at these various locations.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they could not just see their performance, but compared to other branches.
Right.
That would take 1 to 2 analysts in their FP&A team probably 1 to 2 weeks per month. So you can imagine the overhead of that, all in Excel. They weren't quite sure if anybody was actually engaging with the Excel file, and they had paid a fairly large advisory consulting firm, probably a fair amount of money over 3 to 4 months to even help them produce this Excel file in the first place. Okay,
so the first solution was pay some experts to help build what we sometimes call the magic sheet. You've got the very fancy Excel file that has all the rules and filters and so on to try to get you a good rolled up consolidated view, and you're still taking 1 or 2 financial analysts half the time. Mm-hmm. 1 to 2 weeks a month, up to half the time to prepare this. Okay, so what was the better solution that they came to us about, and where have we ended up so far?
So the beauty of starting to work with them was that they did have the logic defined. While that Excel file was really difficult to maintain, fairly brittle because it was all still in Excel, they had great documentation around what they wanted to measure and the format that they wanted to measure and present to their teams.
I'm going to guess there wasn't just one Excel file either, right?
Oh, of course not.
Right,
no.
Okay. There were dozens that ended up with one at some point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you think you've got forecast files, you've got even wins and losses they were tracking relatively manually compared to what was in Salesforce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it was a consolidation of a lot of data, a lot of Excel sheets that were quite complicated.
So they had data coming out of Salesforce that they then had to apply their sort of own local knowledge to make correct.
Exactly.
Yeah, we never had that problem here.
Not at all. No, we have perfect CRM and hygiene.
Okay.
Yeah. So we started working. They brought on a new CTO. He really understood the vision for what consolidated data in a clean data lake could look like. I think the really differentiating component of this company was how closely he worked with the CFO, who understood that the process they were using to produce this file was not sustainable, and it wasn't delivering the results they had hoped for by getting their GMs this consolidated view of data.
Were they getting inaccurate results? Were they having to go back and do corrections, or it just wasn't complete enough?
I'd say yes to both of those questions. I'm sure there were inaccuracies. They really couldn't get a drill down view of data. So as soon as you saw an aggregate trend, everybody's first question is why. It was very difficult, to drill down to maybe a region or a branch specific view of what's driving that performance.
That's a whole nother analyst project. Okay.
Exactly.
Bob, go figure that out.
Yeah. So that was a challenge. Never mind the timeliness of that data. So they were reporting a month in arrears. So at that point, the situation on the ground has already changed.
Right.
There's not much you can do to actually affect performance.
Yeah. I mean, better to have that than to have nothing. But that retrospective reporting, you can react for the future, but you can't react in time to fix something in that period.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So over a matter of, I want to say, 3 to 4 weeks, we were able to do a really deep dive into the documentation that they'd produced, prepare the vision for what the migration, in this case to a Snowflake data platform, would look like with Power BI on top of that. Then it was a matter of getting into the weeds with that team, really documenting the logic in a way that would surface well for Power BI. But at the end of 6 months, we'd completely automated that Excel file and have now moved on to the next questions, just continuing to expand what that business can see.
So you go into operational areas, business development, that type of thing. So in that 6 months, how long did it take before there was actually value coming out of the work that was being done? Because, in the old days, 7, 8 years ago, building a data warehouse, you might have said, hey, you're not going to see anything good for 6 months or 12 months or 18 months. But these days, it's so much more nimble. We're able to get data into a data lakehouse environment so much more quickly. I'm guessing, and I actually don't know the answer to this, maybe you're going to say it took 6 months, but I'm guessing that as data started to flow from systems into the lakehouse, there was value fairly quickly.
Oh, certainly. I'd say it was within the first 1 to 2 months that we were able to surface the first report. The way we tackled that Excel file was to really understand, okay, what data is flowing into each of these tabs. And so we could attack that very incrementally. So we knew one tab actually only had data flowing in from the ERP. So we could start there, get a report in front of the team really quickly so that they weren't just left scratching their heads wondering, when are we actually going to see something for all of this work?
Right. And you want to surface the data quickly so that you can find out if you've got problems. Like, is there some problem in the definition? Is some of the initial design off in some way? And if you're waiting till 6 months and unveiling something, the big reveal, and it's off, now you might have months left to get it right. Whereas if you start surfacing data to data analysts and even end users who are SMEs in those areas, you can find problems quickly and correct them.
Yeah, never mind that when you're going through that process of shifting from Excel to something really codified like Power BI, you're going to find those edge cases where some analysts had added this special, zhuzhed up the number just a little bit, took one of those measure definitions, and they have a special filter that they apply to get to the right number. As soon as you can surface data with the core definitions, that's when you start to catch those edge cases before you're releasing to a broader audience.
You see it. Okay. So the results then for this company was during that 6 months, pretty quickly, within a month or two, we're starting to see data, starting to get portions of the report. Within 6 months, fully replaced this report. I'm guessing, or correct me if I get it wrong, that was taking 2 analysts 1 to 2 weeks a month to produce. I'm assuming we can start getting data sort of in the period. You don't have to wait till the close and do it afterwards. How much time are the analysts still spending in that area, or has that just been handled there and they're able to just look at things and then go research particular problems that maybe come out of the data? Not that the data is wrong, but realizing there's a problem in the business, we need to go answer a question.
Sure. With maybe a handful of exceptions, I would say we've completely eliminated the manual lift that's required to produce that Excel file.
So they've got to be thrilled with that.
I think as thrilled as anybody could be.
Yeah. And so from there, then that just opens up. Actually, it's interesting when we work with clients, you solve the acute problem that they came to us for, and then pretty quickly, as soon as they see the power of consolidating the data, cleaning the data, getting it into a good state for automated reporting, or even not even automated reporting, but a good state that you can pull data into Excel and do things very quickly as opposed to having to consolidate all of it. Pretty soon, there's areas all over the company that will benefit from that.
Well, and I've heard this analogy now multiple times in the past week. As soon as the business starts to appreciate that there's actually food in the pantry from a business intelligence perspective, the line starts to wrap around the corner.
I love it.
Everybody wants, a unique cut of the data, or really to understand how it's tailored specifically for their role. Once you start to wire the company that way, everybody just moves in the same direction and things really start to gel.
Yeah. So in the case of this client, they had a technology executive that really understood the vision. How important was that to getting this done?
I'd say critical. You need that vision from leadership, I think, to really align the correct pieces and help something like this move forward. He understood how to actualize a solution to the CFO's pain. I think the CFO, obviously, that team was swamped by preparing these reports. He could raise his hand and say, I need help. But it was really that partner on the technology side of the house who could really come in, make the decisions around, do we use Snowflake or Fabric? How do we implement DBT? So we're tracking lineage of data and making sure we're monitoring measure definitions. He was really, I think, a key component of helping drive this effort forward.
Yeah, that's great. I've seen that person be the CFO sometimes. Sometimes it's some other executive. I've also seen cases where a CFO is so busy and so entrenched in their work, and they have a system that's working, and maybe it's not efficient, it's not going to scale, but it's getting it done, and they're underwater anyway. And so it's hard to get the vision for doing that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it is helpful to have a colleague in that company who has that vision, is going to drive that, and then deliver to that CFO who's already overworked and doesn't have enough time. Deliver to them, here are solutions, help validate that, help shape it, and help get it done.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Never mind that really we had broader organizational buy-in in this particular case. We had steering committee meetings every week where we were briefing the CEO, the rest of the leadership team on the status of this effort, because it truly was organizational visibility and empowering GMs at any given branch to act as if they were an owner of their individual P&L.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know at this company whether you're talking about AI, agentic workflows, or just workflows, AI analysis, but having done that work, they are ready to take advantage of the things that are happening. We've seen just over the last, 6-8 weeks, new models come out of Anthropic and OpenAI both that are doing amazing things with well-organized data. They'll even help get the rough edges off of, or rough corners off of data that's not as well organized. But if you get it tightly organized into a good medallion architecture and a data lakehouse, it's amazing what you can do now. So I would imagine there's exciting things ahead for this client.
Yeah, I think now really the sky's the limit in terms of how they build on top of this great foundation that they've already established, whether that's AI, whether that's just more reports across different functions. I think they're just starting to add fuel to that fire.
Good. All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. For our listeners or viewers on YouTube, we have a lot of these podcasts talking about different case studies, different approaches to data problems, a lot of AI content, obviously, over the last couple of years. So subscribe, look at our stuff. It's funny, for my podcast viewing now, if anything's more than a couple of months old, I tend to discount it because things are moving so fast. And certainly that will be the case. If I went back 3 years in our podcast, I'd probably say, okay, no, that doesn't apply anymore. But we produce a couple of months. So if you're interested, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much, Brick.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.